Just talk about Ekta very briefly is global markets, because I think that's been kind of the piece with the puzzle which has been taken for granted so far, in the way that they've been doing pretty well, led of course by Wall Street, and expectations have been right that they will continue to do well. So let's just kind of look at what happened overnight and what it really means, because I think yesterday was one of those sessions where you can look at it and say, okay, what just happened, right? So this is what happened. You had US equity markets which bounced from a dip. Actually at one point the market was down about a 1.5% or so, and it looked like it would be it would be one of those days when you end at the lowest point, or maybe it keeps going for a while. It did not. The market bounced. The US 10-year yield, that also sold off to the lowest levels that we've seen in November end 2016, and then it bounced back. Right, the dollar, which actually was selling off, in Asian time yesterday, also kind of recovered in the US trading session. The point is, you can say that, well, it indicates resilience, that things which sold off got bought and they didn't keep going in one direction. But I think at some level, the sentiment seems to be turning a little bit. And let's put the next set of the graphics up. The big rally that we've seen, not just in the dollar, yields, US markets, and of course that has kind of pulled other asset markets with it higher as well, has been hope that we will see some real momentous big changes, policy changes under the Trump administration. Those big hopes have been priced in very quickly by markets. What has happened is we've not got any validation so far that those hopes are essentially going to be put into policy. Mr. Trump takes over as president on the 20th of this month, which is, next Friday. And then, so we'll hear from Mr. Trump, then we'll hear from Mr. Trump and others on his cabinet over the next many days after that as well. And maybe next week, leading up to the inauguration, we will hear many more speeches. So, it's essentially a classic case of market pricing and a lot of good news, and now starting to wonder whether a lot of that good news is actually going to happen. Because as we saw for day before yesterday when Mr. Trump spoke, it didn't look like that he wanted to tell markets, investors, people, economy about the plan that he has. He actually went on many things on the fly. So I think you're seeing some of that reaction coming in on global markets. And what happens to Wall Street? If Wall Street, for example, and by the way, people have been waiting for US markets to correct for a while. If that correction starts for whatever reason, that will have an impact, most definitely, on other markets as well. Other markets may not do well when US does well, but when US does badly, be sure that other markets will get pulled down. So I think that's a risk that you have to consider, given what happened yesterday overnight, the trading pattern that you saw, if you're especially a trader, really.
Okay. Well